Okay, so that's a stereotype that black men in leadership positions have been trying to fend off for the longest time. That's why the first order of business is to establish respect. Not love, not adulation. It's respect. Respect for my competence, my level of excellence, and what I bring to the table and doing what I do. That's number one.
Well, hey there, and welcome back to Askew Citizens. I am the Black Boomer, the Askew MC, Stuart Askew. Okay, now I want to welcome you all to the first installment of many to come in what I will call part one of my
Black Dichotomy.
Now you're probably wondering, what the fuck is the Black Dichotomy? Well, let me explain. This is my attempt at looking at black culture and the black zeitgeist and the shifts and changes that have taken place in the past few decades. Now keep in mind, this is not exclusively for black people. In fact, it is definitely for all ethnicities. You see, just like my channel, it's meant to educate and entertain, but with these specific episodes, it's going to be about the small similarities, small differences, nuances, misrepresentations, and most importantly, misunderstandings that happen in black culture between black people and amongst other ethnicities. You see, there are three main things in life that really upset me, and one of them is hypocrisy. And a lot of times, black people themselves and other ethnicities, they're so hypocritical in their beliefs just due to not understanding one another. Because truth be told, a lot of us are very similar. You'd be surprised how many inner city people have so much in common with those rural people, and they clash so much. They all do so many of the same things, be it at a NASCAR infield or outside a football stadium. But this is what this is all about. More about bringing people together and understanding one another a little bit better, and most importantly, for black people to wake the fuck up. Because woke is a goddamn snooze button. You're woke here, and then you go right back to sleep. So fuck woke. This ain't about being woke. Don't tune away, if you think this is about being woke. It's not about being woke. But it is about raising consciousness of all ethnicities. Now when I say educate and entertain, the fun part of this is I'll be using Aron Mcgruders' Boondocks animated series to kind of reinforce some of the points that I'm making. I imagine some of these points will upset a lot of black people, and as far as that's concerned, I could give a shit less. You see, a lot of black folks, once they hear something outside their wheelhouse, automatically want to assume that that black person is an Uncle Tom or betraying black culture, basically keeping black culture in this small little spectrum. Last time I checked, there are all types of white folks. You can be a cowboy, you can be a surfer, you can be a yuppie, you can be a hick, you can be a Wall Street businessman, you can be all these different things with all these different parts of the culture. But I've found as a black man that when I speak to some people, it's automatically, well, he's trying to be something he's not. What does that mean? How much are you trying to limit us? That's what I'm talking about. Black does not mean
He would say something about my hair.
He always talking
that bullshit. That
I ain't
motherfucker
trying to
gonna say
hear
something
that.
about my
Nigga,
hair.
I'm trying to
I'll
go
pop
smack
the
the
shit out of him.
nigga.
I don't give
What
a
you know about that sandwich, man? That sandwich.
That's not black. That is an urban black person. As far as I know, not everyone has the same upbringing just because of the color of their skin. And this is something that black people have to realize. And it can get us away from this crab in a barrel mentality. All this I'll get to in later episodes, but let's keep it light to start off. If you're not familiar with Aron Mcgruder, this is going to be your introduction. If you're not familiar with the Boondocks, good God, you missed out. I've always called it the Black Man South Park, and there's been a reason for that. The social consciousness of the show, I've always found to be off the chain. Way back in the day, it started off as a small comic strip. You know what? Why am I telling you all this right now? Let's just get into the part one of the Black Dichotomy. An introduction to Aron Mcgruder, the Boondocks, but then a quick synopsis on the first point of this episode. The N-word. Let's begin. The now 48-year-old cartoonist, writer, creator, and producer was born in a predominantly black Chicago neighborhood. But shortly before he started school, he moved to Columbia, a Baltimore suburb that was predominantly white. It was in this setting that he experienced for the first time the culture shock of race relations and what it was to be a minority amongst your peers. It was here that he cultivated his acumen for nerddom with things like Star Wars and comic books, but more importantly, it was literally the birthing age of what we now refer to as hip-hop culture, which he was totally engulfed in. It was one of the few outlets for black youth at the time to fully express themselves unchallenged. It was comic book culture and hip-hop culture that were the main influences in his youth, both of which brilliantly come through in all of his works. Now, when it comes to comics, I'm not just referring to Spider-Man or Superman. He was also engulfed in your daily news strip comics. Comics such as Peanuts and Calvin and Hobbes, Bloom County, but also the intelligent political satire that you would find in Gary Trudeau's Doonesbury, which I really think reflects in his work. As a child, I myself can remember being drawn to Doonesbury for some reason. A lot of the commentary in early ages might have gone over my head, but even still to this day, I'll sometimes go to check out a strip just to see what they have to say in the Sunday paper. Once at the University of Maryland, after the school's paper, The Diamondback, lost its comic strip artist to graduation, Aron was presented an opportunity. Well, he gladly took the job and decided to create a strip that would represent national and world events through the perspective of two young black youths. Enter Huey and Riley, one representative of the popular zeitgeist and sometimes stereotypical characteristics of black youth and black culture at that given time, and the other an amalgamation of, well, Malcolm X and a militant black pacifist. Speaking from a black man's perspective, he was a mix of that one black cat in college that we all knew. He was really well read, almost too much so, never drank or smoked pot, and for some reason he was so pro-black that he didn't realize he was a racist. And a mix with that nigga that smoked all the weed and somehow had this like hip-hop radar where he knew every new track and new artist and release date for every new album, and smoked all the weed. Yeah, the perfect blend of those two cats. And I gotta tell you, Huey is like a black youth wonder boy. Oh yeah, there's a little biracial girl named Jasmine and a character named Caesar, which they took out when they switched to animation. Deciding to float it on the internet along with the campus publication, the strip landed favor with the hip-hop magazine The Source, as featured in my intro. This being a big break was short-lived. Long story short, The Source had a lot of issues. It went from the hip-hop magazine to a hip-hop magazine that had a bunch of mediocre rappers, Master P, throw a bunch of money at it for advertisements, and then it was bought by a rapper, Benzino, and it just totally went to trash, but that's a whole nother story. But anywho, it was Universal Press Syndicate who signed the Boondocks in 1999 to be released to 160 national papers that April, with 40 more to follow throughout the year. The Boondocks had arrived. Aron used his strip basically as a conduit to address many black issues. He had his characters speak on everything from exploitive rap videos to the NRA, black conservatives, interracial marriage, all types of things that we really didn't have a voice for at that time. Then, on November 6, 2005, Adult Swim premiered the official first episode of The Boondocks, the animated series. For the next 9 years, Aron would be part of releasing 4 seasons of just absolutely brilliant, intelligent urban satire and black wit, with a flair for seamlessly educating while entertaining with a black-centered perspective. I myself had never experienced anything like this. To this day, I refer to the Boondocks as the Black Man's South Park. Their social and political commentary is pinnacle. And I've gone back and watched these episodes now in 2022. They age well. Due to a serious commitment to artistry, the series still looks absolutely amazing. in 2022, this can stand up to like your favorite anime. Now in the 4th season, they did change animation houses, and it is slightly noticeable, but the animation still stands up. And of all the animated media I've encountered, the voice talent on this is gangbusters. Regina King from Old School 227, yeah, I'm showing my age there. Friday's John Witherspoon, Cedric Yarborough. Also, several seasons feature multiple episodes with voice talents from Samuel L. Jackson and the late Charlie Murphy. People in the political zeitgeist like Bill Maher even lended their talents to the show. There was a serious amount of love and care and perspective that was put into this thing, and thus brings me to why I'm going to be featuring this in my Black Dichotomy. I'll be using the Boondocks to basically give perspective on my perspective, since they seemingly run parallel. Did the Boondocks piss off black people? Yeah, a lot of black people had problems with the Boondocks, and those black people are fucking stupid. So in this first installment of Stuart's breakdown of the Black Dichotomy, I'll be using a Boondocks episode entitled The S Word. Let's begin. Hey, how you been? Been a while since I've seen you. You know, the voiceover sound of me was just kind of running his mouth. Now, this episode called The S Word is actually about the N word. Yeah, the S word is actually Spear Chucker. Anyway, this video... But anyway, this episode was basically Aron Mcgruders' take on the use of the N-word. To me, it's kind of funny, and I'll give a quick synopsis when I get towards the end of this. For now, I'll just talk about the episode, but to me, it's funny how, like, a lot of black people hold this word so sacred, but at the same time, when someone outside their ethnicity uses it, they tend to go berserk and become so defensive of it. Well, here's the thing. When you put something out there and just engulf pop culture and the current zeitgeist with it, you can't be angry when it comes back at you, you know? And I'm not saying when the word is said mean-spirited. I'm saying just when someone says it from a song, movie, TV show. I mean, and that's what I mean by hypocrisy when it comes to the Black Dichotomy. Me, personally, I keep that shit in-house and always have. Sometimes I use it around white people for comedic value. But when I've used it, I've noticed white people are always like, wow, I've never heard you say that. Yeah, because I keep it in-house. If you really hold the word that sacred or there's that much we can only say it, you should keep that shit in-house. But I digress. This episode starts off with, well, Huey is called nigga by one of his teachers, and the way they display this is absolutely hilarious.
And what did he say specifically to you?
He said, sit down, nigga.
He's a basketball player, an avid reader, and one day hopes to spread his philosophy through rap music. When he had a verbal exchange with his teacher, Joe Petto.
So I told him to take his seat, and here comes this barrage of insults. And I said, well, sit down, nigga. I just repeated the insult back to him because that's what I've been trained to do.
Petto claims the version of nigger, ending in ger, is the racial slur, but that he was using a different version of the word ending in ga, that means the same as buddy or best pal.
Honestly, I mean, do you see this?
Admit it, I thought there was a difference between nigger and nigga.
It's...
Help! Whenever I hear the rappers, they say, nigga! It's in all the music. Look. Rap songs that use the word nigga in a positive way. There's tons of them. Look, real nigga roll call. Niggas bleed.
Copyright.
Jigga my nigga. Niggas for life. Real niggas don't die. Shame on a nigga. Suck a nigga. Ain't no nigga.
This is something the Boondocks does so well. Their satire is so spot on that it might ruffle some feathers, but at the same time, it's fucking hilarious.
Don't understand is that if it's so offensive to them, then why do they say it over and over again?
Yeah, I know you saw the circle light in my glasses a few times during this. Copyright.
Haley said the N-word before you did that morning.
He says it every morning. He calls me nigga. He calls the other kids nigga. He calls himself nigga all the time. Nigga this, nigga that.
Copyright.
Nigga, please. Bitch, nigga, have you lost your mind? Nigga, check that hoe. Nigga, you bullshitting. Break yourself, nigga. He says it so much I don't even notice it anymore.
Copyright.
Last week in lunch, Riley says to a classmate, "Can a nigga borrow a French fry?" And my first thought wasn't, "Oh my God, he said the word, the N-word."
Would you like a cup of copyright?
It was, "Now how is a nigga gonna borrow a fry? Nigga, is you gonna give it back?" I'm telling you.
Just trying to avoid the copyright.
My inside voice didn't talk like that before he got in my class.
Now, this is one of the things that I've seen happen. Black people will use this in every other sentence, and the second they hear a white person say it, boom, infuriated. How dare you say that? How dare you use our word? Those are fighting words.
I said it first. Man, I'm telling you, I seen the hatred in his eyes the first time I walked into class. All he saw when he looked at me was a black nigger.
It's fucking ridiculous because there's a big fucking hypocrisy going on there, man. If it's so cool and you want to put it in this rap song and rap that song in front of everyone sitting at the bar or like whatever public venue, then how do you get upset if a white person says it? Especially if it's not mean-spirited. And you can tell the difference.
You both say the word nigga all the time.
I do not.
Riley thought it was his name until he was 3.
You know? There are some white people I've heard speak to me that say ER, and I'm like, dude, you need to clean that shit up. When they're just trying to convey that they don't understand certain things about the word. But regardless.
Last black man who was called a nigga, Terrence Kinsley, a 35-year-old Walmart employee, was called a nigga.
So if somebody calls you a nigga, you get a mansion, a yacht, and 2 white women.
This episode, oh, my stomach growled. This episode displays how some black people like to use the word every other sentence, but the second they hear someone outside their race, oh, it's a travesty. They're racist. Oh my God, look what you did. You bigot. You nigger hater.
Dude, it happened to the Walmart guy.
You probably made that up.
I bet you Tom would know. Tom, hurry up, I'm trying to sue the white man.
It's fucking hypocritical as fuck. Case in point here, Riley is, as I said, the kind of representation of the most urban of the urban when it comes to black people.
Look at your brother.
Booty dance,
He's
booty dance.
traumatized.
Granddad Riley's doing the celebratory booty dance.
This right here is an example of something I truly hate. Racism is out there, I assure you. And I'll get to other points like this later in other episodes. When I go to Walmart, I can tell you that racism is out there. My experience is going to be different than a small little white guy or a pretty white woman. It's going to be different. But we can never really have change if every time a black person sees a white person say the N-word, especially non-mean-spirited, and cries racism. If you're always crying wolf, by the time a pack of them comes for you, no one's coming to help. And so many black people I see do this. The second they can, they'll pull what, I in my old age will refer to as the race card. You wonder why people maybe even call it the race card. It's because if you keep throwing out race cards, after a while, people are gonna wonder what the fuck game you're even playing. You can't point out true racism if you're always pointing out fake racism. And if there's one thing the black people hate, is white people that claim victimhood or claim they're always scared of black people. Well, guess what, black people? You know what white people hate? Black people who are always saying everything is racist. Fact of the matter is, both sides need some fucking personal responsibility. But back to the episode.
What do you make of this whole N-word controversy?
I think it's criminal they suspended this teacher because he stood up to some foul-mouthed gang member.
Gang member.
Copyright.
They should be giving him a medal. It's about time someone in the classroom had the guts to not back down to thugs like that. I mean,
now, there is a certain amount of politics that goes into this thing. People have to realize some people play things up, But one thing that I noticed about this episode that's over 10 years old is how they portray Ann Coulter.
Here we go again with affirmative action. So this little hoodlum can say the N-word whenever
Now,
he
wait a
wants.
minute.
Right, because of the color of his skin. He's being persecuted for saying the exact same word. I mean, I think that is racist. Next, they'll be throwing white kids in jail for reciting rap lyrics. I mean, where should I think if black people don't want to be called the N-word, they shouldn't call themselves the N-word. Just like if they don't want the police to pull them over, they shouldn't be driving stolen cars.
How dare you?
Now it is hilarious. It's absolutely hilarious. But does it remind you of someone? Someone else that just has these overtly mean-spirited takes? Possibly might have the most popular show on Fox News? And here is where there is accountability for white people. Recently, I've started telling people that when you watch bleeding heart bullshit, you start to care about shit that does not matter. But on the other side of things, when you watch mean-spirited takes, you start to approach anyone who has a different opinion with a mean-spirited mindset. Nothing gets accomplished on either side. But the way they portray in culture, I'm just saying, it's very similar to someone that's very popular in media. And happens to be popular with white supremacists, but I digress. But the fact of the matter is, this episode really gets across the point of displaying just how it's kind of hypocritical how some black people like to use the N-word to their advantage, and some black people that actually do come across racism, they can't be heard because of all these bleeding hearts over here. The same people that use it in every other sentence, but then the second they hear someone rapping a rap song, it's, whoa, the fuck are you doing saying that? Well, bro, if we didn't have rappers like Future or Drake that had to say it in every other fucking sentence, then maybe we wouldn't have white people out there that just were obligated to say it if they wanted to rap along with this pop culture bullshit that you're calling fucking rap music. I'm not going to go through the whole episode because, you know, it's one of those things I'd like for you to go and check out yourself. Now, before I wrap things up, I want to mention something. As I said, I do use the N-word. I was watching PTI. Something shocked me and warmed my heart. I was watching the PTI, pardon the interruption, on ESPN, like the 20th anniversary or some such. And Mike Wilbon was on there and he mentioned like, you know, the N-word controversy when some white cat said something about not saying it or something. He openly talked about using it all the time. Now, this blew my mind because Mike Wilbon is someone I watched for years and I just never imagined him sitting around with the fellas. But the simple fact of the matter is, that is the epitome of what I'm talking about. Mike Wilbon uses it all the time. I never knew. Because he represents himself as an individual and keeps that shit in-house. Bomani Jones is probably like one guy I'd love to shake the hand of. He's just a cool dude. Listen to his podcast all the time. And now has a show on HBO. Big ups. That cat I know has let some slip almost in his podcast, but he talks like a well-to-do person. I don't give a fuck what color you are. I've met white jerks and I've met black jerks. Simple fact of the matter is, you gotta rep for self first. To hear that these two black cats that I've long respected, you know, keep that shit in-house where it should be, are just prime examples. Running around saying that every other word just shows lack of vocabulary. But as far as the N-word, there is one person I know that posted something on, of all things, Facebook, that kind of wrapped it up very, very succinctly. Let's check that guy out.
Okay, let me break down this whole N-word controversy because we're making this way too complex. The bottom line is the N-word is profanity, okay? It's exactly like the F-word. So if you're black and you're out in social situations or just in your everyday speech and you're just throwing it around all the time, guess what? You're showing lack of social etiquette in public, and more importantly, you're showing lack of vocabulary. And as far as white people or people of any other ethnicity, when you use that word, realize you are using a word of villainy. Because even in anger, only a villain would choose to use that word. I mean, my God, you know it's a racial slur. So there you have it. It's that simple. Quick, right? It's just like the F word. So when you use it, pick your spots. And more importantly, realize what spot it might put you in.
And there you have it. That's it. That's how simple it is. That's what this channel is about, just simplifying things. Wasn't that easy? Isn't that so fucking smart and to the point? He's a good looking guy too. Alright, well, this is part 1 of the Black Dichotomy. Tune in next time. Got a couple subject matters that I'm burying on which to do next. But hey, there will be a couple more music endeavors that will go up before the next Black Dichotomy. Maybe a possible rant if something tends to happen in media, because it's hard for me to get these things out when I'm doing all this by myself. But outside of that, man, in the meantime, be safe, like, subscribe, share. We don't have a dislike, so the likes, I mean, have sense of self, so I don't care. No, but like my shit. Little close. Got some new Czarface playing in the headphones. Get copyrighted, so it's gonna be a cappella. At least those listening. Gotta see where I fit in. Shine glimmery, my style is pure rhyme symmetry, but your style is just a century. Salute the sergeant, Aron. Y'all cats ain't got the stamina, so your style's easy to handle. Grab you by your mandible, blow you out like I was that vandal while you at home with your girl watching scandal reruns. Fucking got a style of poison tongue, 2 tongues is fucking amble. You will get trampled, eating up good like it was Campbell. No need for the N-word, don't be absurd. It's the E, yo, I come through all y'all other cats. I keep it straight and A-grading while you waiting with hesitation. Get up on here, show some innovation. Claiming that I won't give you heart palpitations. Come on, man, it's electrifying. There's no line when the other cat try to come against me. Small cubs, I'm a lion, so defiant. Yo, he's a Kobe Bryant, R.I.P. to where you see that got down like Big L. My rhyme style will make that head swell. Fulfill your thirst like Propel, or maybe Gatorade. Yo, throw your shade, I give a fuck. I'm A-grade, S.E. I had it digging deep, you can say I'm a spade, or maybe me or more, eating s'mores, I be a more invaded. Come on, man, you still waiting for me to fall off. I hit it like a sawed off. Y'all cats need to take the day off. This ain't the playoffs. STE is back again. So my freestyle's holy like the Vatican. Ask your man. I hate black rappers. Stop using that word so much. It's one of those things you can get it to line up.